Well, folks, good day to you one and all. And as we like to say, your favorite time of the week. Wednesday night, it's iRacing. We're coming to you live from the second year production studio down here in the somewhat cooler Cape Town area. And as always, best friend, bright partner, he knows how to throw a good whiskey as well. The voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Yennis. 3 seasons down the line, Frankie, good evening to you.
Gaza, good evening. Yes, and we come to you from Connecticut and in Lakeville from the Lime Rock Park racetrack, where the outside temperature is 19, clear skies, 3k an hour wind, track temperature is 23 degrees, track length 2.35, and the guys will circulate the circuit in under a minute. And they're racing this evening in MAZDA MX-5 cars.
Yep, and I predicted, and I'm going to stick my neck out on this one, that they are going to be extremely close to one another. Well, but okay, I did practice for the guys, so that's why I could make that prediction. And believe you me, this is going to be one of the closest ones that you're going to ever see. There was the top 15 cars that were within 1 second of one another. And the only problem is that is probably meaning that we're going to lose a good couple of cars out of the front end of the pack very, very early on, because of the fact that there's going to be contact, because there is so little between the different cars. So, Luke Lucchese, a 57.486, and Frankie, we have seen 56s out there already, so that's a banker lap for Luke Lucchese. Jaco Steyn, who was also right up top there with the practice session. Johan Ferree, that was also right up top, and Willem Botha, that has now moved a little bit higher up than what he was in the initial practice session that we were watching.
Yeah, almost 3 minutes done, and there is less than a second separating the first 11 cars out there so far. That is Willem Botha in the 301, the Kazoo Racing man. There is Francois Hubert. He currently sits there in P5, 3/10 of a second off provisional pole sitter Luke Lucchese, as that is the 57 of Willem Pina. He currently is in P8 at this point in time. He was in P7, he just got bumped down to P8. Robbie Teens busy working his way around, and he sits there in that 6th position, 6/10 of a second off Luke Lucchese. And Peter Hubert, the 777 in the Pennzoil car, working his way around, and so far he sits there in 8th position.
Yep, and literally 400ths of a second slower than that is JJ van der Merwe. So as we said, we have seen sub 57 a second laps, and there you see the only man doing it right now so far is Luke Lucchese, but that doesn't take him out of the danger zone, because there are others, Jaco Steyn, Johan Ferree, and Francois Hubert, that have also done sub 57s already. Johan Engelbrecht was actually in the top 7 with the initial practice, and I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, Willem Botha. And as Willem Botha climbs on the front row of the grid, Johan Ferree says, meneer, klein bietjie agter toe. Johan Ferree, Luke Lucchese at this point locking out the front row of the grid. Peter Hubert, the frequent flyer, comes to play 3rd row of the grid provisionally.
Well, it's going to be interesting stuff. Luke Lucchese, Johan Ferree, Willem Botha, Jaco Steyn, the 2 Huberts, Robbie Teens, Jan Spalmers, yes, Sandro Bakari, it's beginning to take shape, the front row of the grid. That's Raymond Duggan. He currently finds himself in P12, just under a second behind Luke Lucchese at this point in time. As he works his way around, he sits there in that 12th position, 0.933 as a matter of fact. Jan Spalmers with the IRSA color scheme on that car, working his way around. He currently finds himself in P9.645 behind Luke Lucchese.
So Herman Laus just a little bit further down. In fact, he just pops himself up a little bit higher up. Cheapercars.co.za. And as we said, the top 15 with the practice were within a second of one another. Yaz Samai now coming into that golden 1 second pack. He's the 12th fastest car out there. Jaco Steyn for a long time was the fastest out there, only about 23 thousandths of a second in the practice, which was an hour practice session. He now finds himself pretty solidly on the front row of the grid, and he's already gone into pits, so he's finished with his qualifying. Is Luke Lucchese still out there? There comes Luke Lucchese. Not that he needs it at this stage of the fight, but that's his second lap that he goes through, and it's a little bit slower than the previous one. And that part, oh, it's a little bit slower. It's 100th slower than the previous one. Jaco Steyn has gone in. Francois Joubert, can he still have a look to see if he can get onto the front row of the grid? Here he comes around now. That's going through the last bend. That's through diving turn. Can Francois Joubert bump himself up onto the front row of the grid? He needs 2/10. He needs 2/10.
No, stays there in P3.
No.
Inside of the second row.
Oh, Johan Ferry, can he go up higher than the second row of the grid?
It's going to be very tough, tall ask. No, he doesn't. He stays on the outside of the second row, 2/10 of a second off Luke Lucchese. But 1.1 seconds separating the first 18 cars out there. Man, 1.6. The first 19, just over 1.5 seconds. Man, that's going to be outright war. That's JJ van der Merwe, currently finding himself there in P5, just under 3/10 of a second behind Luke Lucchese. Will he go higher than P5? No, he doesn't. He stays there, but it's 0.296 off Luke Lucchese.
It's actually pretty good, I must say, for JJ van der Merwe, because you think he's got Willem Botha, Pieter Joubert, Sandro Bakari, Robbie, Yaz, Mr. Porsche Cup from the previous season behind him. Johan Engelbrecht, that was up to 6th position at one stage, getting bumped a long way down. Only 6/10 off, but 6/10 makes a hell of a difference. 6/10 takes you from the front row of the grid and puts you on the 6th row of the grid. Can Yaz Samai, the ex-Porsche Cup champion, can he make a plan with the Ray-Ban car and go any further forward? Nope, he stays where he is.
Yeah, stays there in P10. So the 8 minutes qualifying is done and dusted. Remember, 2:24 lappers, and there will be a pit stop in each one. So Luke Lucchese, Jaco Steyn, Francois Joubert, Johan Fourie, JJ van der Merwe, and Willem Botha, the first 3 rows of the grid.
Behind that is Pieter Joubert, Sandro Bakari, Robbie Tings, Yaz Samai, rounding out the top 12.
Then Engelbrecht and Sparmers, followed there by Stanton, McCarthy, Lazarus, Duggan, Leonardo Bakari, and Willem Pinaar. Then the last 2 cars out there is Rainier Joubert and Ian Riddle. Eugene Manouk did not post the time, but I do see the Repsol car right at the back there of Eugene Manouk.
Yo, this is going to be something else. Look at that. I think let's take those numbers away. Let's get some more space that we can see everything out there. So, Frankie, what do you think of this track? The Sam Posey track, and I think it's going to be something brilliant.
Yeah, it's a very quick circuit. It's a flowing circuit, except when you get to the uphill, there you're going to be very careful. Standing start, lights on, lights off, and away we go. And a horrible start there by JJ van der Merwe. He's dropping all the way down. He's losing 2, 3, 4 positions. Is van der Merwe. Somehow he got himself bogged down on the line, but no problem up front for Luke Lucchese. Right behind him is Jaco Steyn. Then we've got Johan Fourie. Right next to him we have got Francois Joubert. Behind him is Willem Pinaar. Behind him is Pieter Joubert. Behind Joubert is Sandro Bakari, and right behind him is Robbie Tings. That's the first 8 cars as they work their way now towards the uphill. Here it gets very technical.
Up here you've got to be very, very neat as you go over the hill, as the car lightens up as you go over the top of the hill. Raymond Duggan and Leonardo Bakari have had problems out there already, unfortunately, and they're dropping down towards the tail end of the field.
So we'll get those intervals up for you right now, and the battle box, because I think it's going to be very interesting stuff, especially that fight coming towards us now. with Willem Botha. Sandro Bakar is in there. Robbie Teens is in there. Peter Hubert is in that fight. That's busy working its way out of turn 1 called Big Ben.
Yeah, 0.1, 0.2 of a second. That's all that's in it. Jaco Steyn is all over the back of Johan Ferry, 0.2 of a second, but he's got Francois Hubert right in there behind him as well. That's quite a battle that's a little bit higher up the field, and Pieter Hubert makes the move, and Pieter Hubert passes Willem Botha. That was the battle that we were just looking at.
Yeah, Willem Botha got it slightly wrong there. He will lose out to Sandro Bakari, yeah. As you see Botha go very wide, so that will open the door there for the NGK car of Sandro Bakari, and right there is Robbie Teens as well, as we have a look at that first 4 busy working their way around. Down the main straight they go, and it is, oh, look at that one, that's 3, 4 and 5 that's going there into turn 1. Johan Fourie, right behind him is Jaco Steyn, right behind him is Francois Hubert, and then going off the circuit there, that's Pieter Hubert. He's losing tons of positions, is Pieter, as he drops down the leaderboard in that Pennzoil car.
Yeah, they were coming up to come and lap him already, and that's because of incident that he had earlier on, so that took him completely out of it. So Jaco Steyn is all over the back end there of Johan Ferry. That is one massive drive by Jaco Steyn as he pressurizes the multiple of V8 South African main circuit champion.
Yeah, the car that's ahead of this two, that's Raymond Duggan. As a matter of fact, he is already a lap down, sitting there in P20, and he's just ahead of this fight for track position between Johan Fourie and Jaco Steyn. Down the Samposi straight they go, into turn number 1, the Big Ben corner. Through they go, and Steyn, did he make contact? No, the brake light was on very long there.
No, he did. He actually did make contact, and he backed out of it as quick as he could, and both of them managed to hold it together, but that brings Francois Hubert into the play and brings him a whole lot closer. But look what's happening behind Francois Hubert. It's game on behind that as well.
Yeah, Robbie Teens is in that fight, right behind Robbie Teens. Or just ahead of him is Sandro Bakari. Then we've got Robbie Teens, and behind him is the Red Bull car, and that is race driver SA Esports of Willem Botha. Then the 20 car, that's Timothy Stanton, Yasamai coming through. There is Stephen McCarthy busy working his way through as well, and 1.3 behind him is Pienaar, and right on his case is Jan Spalmers.
Yep, Robbie Teens also having a bash going up the front main. Can he make up that position? Sandro Bakaro and Robbie Teens, nothing much between them. Having a look on the outside line was Sandro. He had to back out of that. He's got Willem Botha right in there behind him as well. So that's a very tight battle. Willem Pienaar is a little bit further back than what he would expect to be, but he is putting the pressure now on the likes of Jan Spalmers.
Yes, and right behind him is Reinier Hubert, 0.5 of a second between Reinier and Willem Pienaar. Willem 0.7 of a second just behind Jan Spalmers. That's a group you see there. There's Willem Botha diving up on the inside of Robbie Teens. The two of them are side by side. Teens on his left hand side. Under the bridge they go, and the line will belong to Botha, but it is Teens that stays there ahead of Botha coming out that final corner.
Oh, that one could have gone in any direction between the two of them. And, well, that's the way it played it out. Pieter Hubert is starting to try and make a bit of a comeback as he gets onto the tail end there of Ian Riddle.
Yeah, right in the case there of Riddle is Pieter Hubert. That's at fight for P14 and 15. You see going down there into turn number 1. And Riddle has got Pieter. Now remember, he's going to launch a massive comeback. Oh, as he just slams into Riddle and sends him packing towards the right hand side of the track.
Yeah, Robbie Teens has gone off as well. Robbie Teens has gone off the circuit, and something definitely went wrong for Robbie Teens. Let's see if we can pick up that replay. Oh, he just ran. Oh, he hammers the barrier heavily, and he takes other cars out with him.
Yeah, I took Willem Botha out there in that 301, so Willem Botha also paid the price. There's Jaco Steyn still fighting it out there with Johan Fourie, and Francois Hubert sits in there as well. That's second, third, and fourth. a tenth of a second between Fourie and Steyn, and 2/3 between Steyn and Francois Hubert. That is that fight for second, third and fourth, and not too far behind them. 2.2 is Sandra Bakari. That's the NGK car you see coming into view there. Going into that right-hander, that is your leader. That is Luc Lucchese. He's 4 seconds ahead of this fight between Fourie, Hubert and Steyn.
What a battle. Francois Hubert getting past Jaco Steyn. Jaco was getting a little bit on the erratic side, I must say. So let's Frankie go from the top down. The fastest man out there is in fact the Luc Lucchese outfit as he goes past the start-finish line. Here they come. Johan Fourie. He's now got Francois Hubert with him, and Jaco Steyn trying to have a look up on the inside line. I think he fancies Johan being the quicker of the two through there and getting a run there on Francois Hubert. They get themselves side by side, but look, they're not going to touch one another unnecessarily. They are the best of the best out there. And what a magnificent battle. Not that far behind them. And having one of his best races, once again having one of his best races, is Sandra Bakari.
Yeah, in the NGK spark plug car sitting out there in a P5, 2.3 behind the combination of Fourie, Hubert and Steyn. As we go a bit further down, there's a Timothy Stanton. He's got the asymmetric racing and Ray-Ban car behind him. That's Yas Samai. There's Jan Sparmers coming through as well. Jan is 1.5 seconds behind Yas Samai. Under the bridge they go. There is the Castrol car you saw there of Willem Pina. There is Peter Hubert coming through. Oh, and making way for the leaders is, believe it or not, that's Robbie Teens. And he hasn't had a good one out there at this point in time. Robbie sits out there in P18 and was just lapped there by Fourie, Hubert and Steyn.
What a brilliant drive by Jaco Steyn. In fact, let's go on board there with Jaco Steyn. That's what it looks like. And he's starting, Frankie, to print his name alongside the heavies. It's more than once that we've now seen him actually going wheel to wheel, toe to toe, and rubbing wheel nuts with the best out there, and going not just for a little flash in the pan, but for the full length of a race that he actually runs with them. But you can see, he closes the line off. Johan Fourie doing what he does best, making sure that he goes past you, but you stay behind him. That's two teammates for the 4 hours, which was the 6 hours. They also won't mess up one another's races. They will do everything to not mess one another around. Jaco Steyn's the one that they've got to worry about, because he's the new kid on the block with the heavies.
Yeah, Jaco Steyn for Gazoo Racing, sitting out there in that fourth position, and he's all over the back of the AlphaTauri car, the MX-5 there of Francois Hubert, heading towards the uphill, getting it slightly airborne, and then working their way down the back straight towards West Bend. Through West Bend they go, and that will take them under the Haggerty Bridge towards the final corner, and then down the Sam Posey Straight.
Does Johan Fourie close the line off again? Oh yes, he's got to, because Francois, he was a little bit too late to come back, and that was Francois that already stuck his nose in. That gives an opportunity for Jaco Steyn to go a wide entry and a middle line apex and hold in there. So while they're fighting one another, it's 5.7 seconds ahead of that is Luc Lucchese. But let's also give credit to this man, Sandro Bakari, because Sandro is once again in the top 5.
Yeah, in the NGK car is Bakari sitting out there in P5, 2.7 behind the combination of Francois Hubert and Jaco Steyn. There's Timothy Stanton. He finds himself in P6. Jan Sparmers 1.8 behind him in that 7th position. Going over the uphill, the back straight towards West Bend. The two of them go, and then down towards the final corner. Peter Hubert, well, he is the comeback kid. There is the 57 coming through. That's Willem Pina. Behind him is Johan Engelbrecht. There's Reinier Hubert coming through, 1.2 behind Engelbrecht. And then Ian Riddle in P12, nearly 18 seconds behind Reinier Hubert.
the first of the big hitters, and I'm going to refer to Jaco Steyn from here on out as one of the big hitters that is into the pits. Can Johan Engelbrecht go past him? I think he will. Yes, he does. Renier Hubert comes past as well. Here comes Ian Riddle to come and complete his lap, so he'll also be coming in there. So this is the opportunity now for that man, Francois Hubert, to now try and get some very quick lap times in and make sure that he stays ahead of Jaco Steyn. If he gets held up by you, oh, Johan Fourie, that was very, very close to the wall with Johan Fourie. If the two of them hold one another up at all, Jaco Steyn, oh, there he goes, it's in, it's on. Johan Fourie is into the pits.
Yeah, and Francois Hubert continues well. We're on lap 13, almost 12 minutes done, so we are halfway. We're at that halfway mark. Sandro Bakari is in the pits there. Jaco Steyn, he'll be moving shortly. There, Johan Fourie stops. That is Riddle busy working his way out. Eugene Manouk is also working his way out. So quite a few drivers in and quite a few are busy working their way back out onto the circuit again.
So, of the guys that have been into the pits, who is the highest up? I do believe, oh, Johan Fourie from Sandro Bakari and Yas Samai. Jaco Steyn must have had a bit of damage on the car because he's dropped a long way down. He finds himself, in fact, fifth of the people that have been in and out of the pits. Luc Lucchesi, the leader, goes straight into the pits. Where is Francois Hubert? Here comes Francois Hubert. And, well, does he go in as well? Yes, he does. The next man behind Francois Hubert, is he also going to go in? It's Timothy Stanton. He hasn't been into the pits yet. Everybody is going in. There goes Jan Spalmers as well. In behind that is Peter Hubert in the Pennzoil car. He also dives in. So it's everybody line astern. Willem Pina, one of the last of the guys that have not done a pit stop yet, he goes in. So does that man. So Johan Fourie will probably end up on his way at the end of this lap. If he can get going quick enough, he will be the man that's going to lead from here on out.
Well, Johan Fourie working his way down the main straight, calls Sam Posey. Here comes Luc Lucchesi, and Lucchesi will not lose that lead. He will not lose that lead to Fourie. Fourie sits there in P2, 5.3 behind Luc Lucchesi. And then behind him on track we see Sandro Bakari. Behind Sandro Bakari we see Yas Samai. And then Jan Spalmers will be the next man coming through. And 4.3 behind him will be the Pennzoil car of Peter Hubert.
So Jaco Steyn has lost out heavily. Something must have happened to Jaco Steyn, because he was there and thereabouts, and he had no problem running that pace at all. And well, unfortunately, he's just dropped a long way down. Just having a look at the replays, I cannot find anywhere where he had an off track. It's possible that he had a very long pit stop as such. Let's have a look at the pit times, and let's have a look. See, Jaco Steyn, no, the same as everybody else. So don't understand how that one works out. Let's have a look at the gains and losses as we go back on circuit with Luc Lucchesi.
Yeah, up 9 for Willem Pina and Renier Hubert. Down 10 for Jaco Steyn. Down 11 for JJ van der Merwe. And down 8 for Robbie Teens. But Robbie had problems virtually in the beginning of this one. So he's dropped all the way down to P17 and nearly 11 seconds behind Van der Merwe.
So there, Willem Pina was off track, and
Johan Engelbrecht.
Johan Engelbrecht. I think it was actually started with Johan Engelbrecht that was trying to come back onto the track. Let's just see if we can go a little bit further back with that one. And we can try and pick up Johan Engelbrecht. Let me see if I can find that for you quickly. There it is over there. Yeah, there was contact earlier on. Oh, that was a massive tangle, that one.
4 of them. Robbie Teens was involved. Johan Engelbrecht was involved. Eugene Manouk was involved in that one. And Willem Pina, 4 of them involved in that situation.
Wow, that was very big. And yeah, I don't believe that. Let's just see if we can have another look at that one in slow motion. Yeah, it started off with a Castrol car, and the Repsol car then hitting the barrier. Everybody else was then just subject to what was going to happen. You can hold on to the steering wheel, but that's just about all that you can do, and hope for the best. Going back to live with the Lego man, Luke Lucchese.
From Race Driver SA, and Pantera Racing sits out there in P1, 6.6 seconds ahead of Johan Fourie, that is in that second position. I don't think Johan will be too hassled about that if he can finish there in P2 in the monster car. Then Sandro Bakari 5 seconds behind Fourie in the NGK Spark Plugs Mazda MX-5 in P3. P4 is Yas Samai, and he has got Jan Sparmers 4/10 of a second behind him. They're fighting it out there for 4th and 5th between Samai and the Sparmers as they busy work their way around. And then we've got Peter Hubert. Now he's busy carving his way back through the field again. He's only 1.6 behind Jan Sparmers, so he would fancy his chances. Here comes Sparmers, here he comes, but he's got Willem Botha right on his case there. 2/10, make it 3/10 of a second between Peter and Willem.
Yep, so he just holds it over the curbstone. As I went to that shot, I see Frankie sitting on the couch, and he's someone leaned towards the right-hand side, hoping that he's going to make it with the Pennzoil car. Under the Samposi Bridge they go, riding on board with Willem Botha. The Pennzoil car in front of that is in fact Pidi Hubert. Yaz Samai swaps positions with... who else was that with him? Jan Sparmers is the man that's in front. This is a four-way battle. Pidi Hubert getting it a little bit wild and rough, uses a lot of the curbstones on the entry, and that unsettled him completely. I think we must stick with this one because this is the major battle. 5, in fact, from 4th, 5th, 6th and a 7th position. Good drive out of the corner and up over the hill.
Yep, down the back straight, working their way now towards West Bend. That's West Bend they're going through. Then they've got a bit of a straight under the Haggerty Bridge before they go to the final corner. And that is Race Driver SA Esports. Willem Botha sitting there in P7. Weaving around ahead of him is Peter Hubert.
Cover the line up front.
Yep.
You see that one. He obviously, he must have watched some of the replays of Johan Fourie trying to hold out the guys earlier on, and look at that up on the inside, as you said, the recovery, and he was on the inside of Yaz Samai. Oh, they make a bit of contact, and that's going to bring Willem Botha right into it.
That could just send Hubert packing. He does. He loses 2 positions, but he's right there in the fight once again. There goes Jan Sparmers. There you've got Yas Samai. On his left-hand side is Willem Botha. Just behind him is the Pennzoil car of Peter Hubert, heading towards West Bend once again. That's 4, 5, 6 and 7. You see in your picture there, working their way towards the final corner. It is a massive, massive fight, and the Pennzoil car gets through. Hubert makes the move there on Yas Samai.
Jaco Steyn starting with a comeback as well. Jaco Steyn in there behind Renier Hubert in the camel car. That's the number 2. And the two of them are pretty close to one another. In fact, Timothy Stanton is the man that's now coming under pressure, because at this stage of the fight, Timothy Stanton's got them racked, stacked and packed behind him. Look at that.
Yeah, Timothy Stanton in P8. He's got Renier Hubert and Jaco Steyn. That's the 2 cars you see there. Right behind him, the camel car of Hubert, and then behind him in the Tag Heuer car, that is Jaco Steyn of Gazoo Racing, as the 2 of them are almost side by side, and Steyn gets through. Jaco Steyn gets through there on Renier Hubert.
Yep, so he's busy making up the moves, and he now gets onto the back of Timothy Stanton. I don't think it'll be too difficult to get past Timothy Stanton, because Jaco Steyn is definitely on the pace of Luke, Johan and Francois that was at the front end of the pack. What's happened to Francois Hubert?
Yeah, what has happened to Francois Hubert? Sits all the way in P11. He's not too far behind this fight. Oh, and there goes Stanton smashing into the Armco. And as that happens, Francois Hubert comes through, and so does Steve McCarthy together with Johan Engelbrecht.
Wow, that was a biggie. That was very heavy. So Francois Hubert that did have a off track. Let's see what happened to him. Let's see if we can pick that one up. Oh, this was a bit earlier on, just running a bit wide. There's a lot of time lost when you go off there. There's just grass, and more grass, and eventually you get to the hedge. You clean up the back rim a little bit on the hedge, work your way straight back towards the track. But just look how much time, and that's where Jaco Steyn managed to get past him. There you see Luc Lekezi that just went through there as well. So that one gives you a bit of indication of where we're at, and that means that with all that damage, that man has gone back into the pits.
Yeah, well, you want to know why Francois was so far down. That's the reason why. Oh, there's a damaged number 20 car in the pits there, and that is Timothy Stanton.
You see the smoke on the right-hand side. Smokey Robinson in the pits, and there we see the Hubert car, the Pennzoil car, coming back out on circuit. So Luc Lekezi, with all of this, has got himself 13 seconds on Johan Fourie. Sandro Bakari going for one of his best results. He's up into the top 3.
Well, we're on lap 23 of 24, so we're heading towards the end of this one with 22 minutes done. And it is indeed Luc Lekezi that sits out there in P1. He's nearly 14 seconds ahead of Johan Fourie. That's in that second position as he works his way down the back straight into West Bend and then flies it down towards the final corner. There's the final corner coming up. He's going to have to go around at least one more time because he has to do lap 24 as he works his way down the main straight. Sam Posey towards turn 1 Big Bend as he is 13.5 seconds ahead of the man in second position, namely Johan Fourie.
There you see on the top, heat number 1, lap 24, the white flag has come out. Johan Fourie, Sandro Bakari. He must be feeling very happy with this one. He's got 15 seconds on Yad Samai. He doesn't have to do anything fancy whatsoever. Just keep it on the island, and you've got a top 3 result.
Well, still a fight for P12. Van der Merwe is 0.6 of a second behind Leonardo Bakari. So that is that fight for the last position in the top dozen. But Jaco Steyn sitting 1.7 ahead of Peter Hubert. That's worked his way up. And there once again Francois Hubert in P8, 2.8 behind Steyn, just battling. But the checkered flag will come out soon. Where is our leader?
He's just gone through. There's Johan Fourie, the second man.
Yeah, we just picked him up in time. That was Lekezi that came home in P1. Johan Fourie finishes in second. Sandro Bakari will finish in third. McCarthy is ahead of him, but McCarthy is a back marker. Yas Samaya will come home in P4, and 12.7 behind him in P5 will be Willem Botha.
Up there, Yasamai comes across the line, and the last man in that lead pack with what's left of that MX5. I think he's turned that MX5 into MX4. This is a little bit less of it left out there, and there comes Willem Botha coming through. And the other man that's still going to come across the line now, well, Robbie Teens, he's come through as well. So it's only Willem Pina. There Willem Pina comes through, and that pretty much wraps that one up. Eugene Manouk is 4 laps down, and 1 lap down for Johan Engelbrecht at this point. So that gives us that one. So how do we look for the second one? Inverted grid. Look at this.
So Van der Merwe will start in pole position. Oh, they're already beginning to grid already with Bakari on his outside. This could be car wars as we see Duggan, Hubert, Francois Hubert, Jaco Steyn, Peter Hubert, Willem Botha, Yas Samaya, Sandro Bakari. That's a top 10.
Johan Fourie from Luc Lekezi. So the top 12 has been inverted. Then it's Robbie Teens, Jan Spalmers, Stephen McCarthy, Herman Lazarus, Willem Pina. Timothy Stanton won't be happy starting in 18th position. Neither will Johan Engelbrecht in 19th. Eugene Manouk, and then Ian Riddle at the tail end of the field.
Right, we are about to go racing there. Jan Spalmer just popped up in P14. So we've got all of them except Ian Riddle isn't on the grid. Oh, there's a big jump start towards the back of the grid Lights are on, lights are off, and away they go. And JJ van der Merwe once again with a horrid start. And he will lose many positions, dropping down, going into Big Bend corner, turn number 1. But it's Duggan that's got the lead. Oh, there's contact between Pieter Joubert and JJ van der Merwe in turn 1.
Yep, that takes them completely out of it, and you're never going to recover from there. So JJ van der Merwe and Johan Fourie finds himself a long way back. Oh,
Francois Joubert.
Some of the big hitters, Johan Fourie, Johan Engelbrecht, Francois Joubert are going to be dropping down there as well. Well, I did say with them being so close to one another, you're probably going to lose a lot of cars in the beginning. It didn't happen in race number 1. It's happening in race number 2.
Well, we expected this when you invert the grid. So there's Leonardo Bakari right there with Jaco Steyn. Behind them is Reinier Joubert. There is Willem Botha. And behind him is Jas Samai, followed by Luc Lucchesi. And Lucchesi makes his way into pit lane.
What does he know that we don't know? He might have worked out that the fuel window is big enough to be able to go in on lap number 1 and make 24 laps. That takes him out of the traffic, gets him into open ground, and that could be how he's going to win heat number 2. Let's hope that that is the case, because I didn't see anybody have any contact with him. Talking about contact, look at this one. Oh, Jas Samai having a pretty good run there with Leonardo and Reinier Joubert.
This is a new terminology for rubbing is racing, the way these guys are going on out there. But it's what it's all about. Not for the faint at heart, that's for sure. There is Herman Lazarus, and he is just behind Timothy Stanton, and behind him is Willem Pina. There's Jaco Steyn, and Jaco Steyn wants to get into P1. He wants to take that lead away from Raymond Duggan. As we look at the cars come back out, Sandro Bakari is working his way back out. Jan Sparmers is busy working his way back out again. And here comes Steyn up on the inside of Duggan. And we might have a new leader. We do. Jaco Steyn leads from Duggan in second. Botha now in third.
Yep, Willem Botha is right there as well. And I don't think you're going to be able to get rid of Jaco Steyn with this one. He worked hard in the first race and was pretty unlucky. And I think now that he gets to the front, I think you're going to have to do something really crazy to steal this one away from him. I think Jaco Steyn is going to take this one from the end of lap number 1 to the end.
Well, we'll have a look now. This is Willem Botha. That's in that third position. He's a tenth of a second behind Raymond Duggan, who's 8/10 of a second behind Jaco Steyn that sits out there in P1. Down the sand posing straight they go. There's Jas Samai, 1.3 behind Botha. And here comes Botha up on the inside of Duggan. And Duggan will lose. Yes, he will lose that position to Botha.
Reinier Joubert also having a look up on that line as well and making that one stick. Yes, no. They still side by side. That can go either way.
Yeah, there's a tenth of a second between Bakari and Reinier Joubert. That's the two cars you see on screen right now. Luc Lucchesi on the track, off the track, all over the place. He's chasing down Johan Fourie. They're sitting in P12 and 13 and 57 dead. The fastest man out there in P13 is Luc Lucchesi and 2/10 of a second behind Fourie.
Keeping in mind that Johan Fourie has not been into the pits. Luc Lucchesi has been into the pits. And although there's smoke in the pit lane there as well. Let's see who is in the pit lane. If we can maybe try and pick that one up. And yeah, somebody's spliced and diced. That's at the back end there of the pits. And not looking good at all with that amount of smoke coming up there. As you can see, Luc Lucchesi all over the back of Johan Fourie, 0.2 of a second. But then Reinier Joubert is, that was just a light rub. And hopefully he doesn't take anybody out there with him. That one's all sorted out. And here comes Willem Pina up on that inside line, which will become the outside line. And yeah, he makes it through, so that's all good. So Timothy Stanton, he's got them packed and stacked behind him.
Yeah, Reinier Joubert right in there. Then it's Timothy Stanton. Then it's Willem Pina. Then behind him is Sandro Bakari. as we go back to the fight here between Luke Lucchese and the man just ahead of him there, that is Johan Fourie. That's P12 and 13. And Stephen McCarthy is behind them in P14, but he's nearly 19 seconds behind these two. That is the 304 car. That's Francois Hubert back out on track, but he's all the way down in P20. So he's down 15 positions, is Francois Hubert. So Lucchese off the track. Oh, just misses that tire barrier coming out the final corner. And this will take the edge slightly off there for Johan Fourie.
Jaco Steyn almost giving it away there to Willem Botha. So the tag, you were red and green mean machine in the hands of a Jaco Steyn. He was denied a top position in race number 1. He's gotten to the front. He's not going to renege on that position very easily, but he's got to be super careful. 56.7, that is one of the quickest to date. So he is definitely on a flyer right now. His biggest competition is that man in the Red Bull car with the Fanatec sign writing on the top. And he has worked his way there past the Sugene Properties car of a Stephen McCarthy. Raymond Duggan once again up in the big points. And he's got the Rise-On car just 2.5 seconds behind Willem Botha. But Mr. Porsche is right in there as well. Yaz Samai. And he's getting a bit of a gap now on Timothy Stanton, who had them all racked and stacked and packed behind him. But Timothy Stanton's got a bit of space from Willem Pienaar. And Willem Pienaar from Peter Hubert. There comes Peter Hubert. And then a little bit further back, there comes Robbie Teings, the Boltman, the original comeback kid.
Yeah, Robbie out in that 8th position, 1.7 between himself and Sander Bakari. There is Robbie, there's Leonardo Bakari, that is in that 9th position. Herman Lazarus sitting there in P10, 3.3 behind Bakari. And then this fight for 11 and 12, that is Johan Fourie, and behind him is Luke Lucchese with Francois Hubert, a back marker. Believe it or not, you never say that on any given Wednesday, that Francois Hubert is a back marker, but it is the way it is in this one, unfortunately.
Look at that, closing off the line again is Johan Fourie. Now the reason why I'm showing you this specifically is because the last time I showed you, there was 15 seconds between Johan Fourie and Herman Lazarus. Johan Fourie and Luke Lucchese, although they're fighting it out, have already made that gap down to 11.5.
Well, Fourie's gone wide. He's going to open the gate there for Lucchese. And Lucchese gets his nose ahead there. Luke moving up now to P11.
Okay, so remember that number? 11.5. That's what it's all about. Willem Pienaar still not been able to get past Timothy Stanton.
Yeah, and he's got Sander Bakari and in there with him, and it looks like it's Jan Sparmers. Yes, it is indeed Jan Sparmers, but remember Bakari and Sparmers is all the way down in P15 and 16, so they're not in this fight with Stanton and Pienaar. There's Stanton, there's Pienaar, and then Bakari and Sparmers all the way down P15 and 16.
Let's go back towards the front end of the field, and what a nice looking view that is. Willem Botha, 3.5 seconds gap back to the Raymond Duggan, and inside, well, in Formula 1 terms, inside of DRS range of the man up front, Jaco Steyn.
Yeah, just under a second between Steyn and Botha, working their way into turn 1. They've got the back marker, Johan Engelbrecht, that is there ahead of them in that 99 car, working their way through the S's. Then going into that first of that long straight before they head towards the uphill. There is P1 and P2 with the back marker Engelbrecht just there behind the combination of Steyn and Botha. Over the uphill they go, and you can see why that's called the uphill. Working their way now towards West Bend, and then under the Haggerty Bridge towards the final corner.
Okay, so I'm going to make a prediction here. Luke Lucchese either had a problem that he went in so early, or he's worked it out and he knows that he can stop on the first lap and he can then make it all the way through to the end. Should he have had damage and went in and he can't make it to the end, Luke Lucchese is going to be outside of the top 10. Should he have worked the mathematics correctly and out of his own went in when he did, that means he's the leading man out on circuit, keeping in mind that Johan Ferrari has now got ahead once again of Luke Lucchese. But remember that 15-second gap to Herman Lazarus, and then I said to you it's 11 seconds to Herman Lazarus, Johan Ferrari having passed Luke Lucchese, and now just 9.5 seconds out, and Johan Ferrari's into the pits. He knows. He's also done his mathematics. Johan Ferrari goes into the pits. That releases Luke Lucchese, and now he's got a bit of space in front of him. How far is Luke Lucchese behind Herman Lazarus? Oh, 17 seconds to find the back end there of Herman Lazarus.
Well, Lucchese there in P11, and he is 17.1 behind Herman Lazarus. Luke Lucchese of Pantera Racing and Race Driver SA sitting out there.
That's why he's so far back. He got taken out.
Yeah, by Eugene Manouk in the Repsol car. There was contact between Manouk and Lucchese.
And that opened up the door at that stage of the fight to get a big gap back to Herman Lazarus. And that just gives Herman Lazarus a little bit of a breathing space. Robbie Teens goes in, Willem Pinaar goes in, Leonardo Beccari goes into the pits as well. And that's going to be a bit of a change-up. But all of that is all in the mirror of that man you see there, Jaco Steyn.
Yeah, Jaco Steyn, but still, there's only 0.6 of a second between the two of them. Duggan is in that third position. Woohoo! That was a very late charge towards pits. The last minute, and then thumps the wall as Duggan also makes his way into pit lane. That could change third position around between Duggan and Botha.
No, that's a game changer. There's no doubt about it. And he's got damage on the right-hand front of that car. So pressure at this stage of the fight. So Jaco Steyn is doing it all right at the front end of the field. There goes Jaco Steyn. He's got no stops. So Raymond Duggan is in the pits right now. Willem's in the pits. Herman is in the pits. Don't forget about Luke Lucchese. Luke Lucchese's already been in. The question is, does he have to go in again?
Well, that was a very, very late change of mind by Botha to go into the pits. I think he wanted to go past and decided, no, I'm going to go in. And that could cost him dearly as he hammered the wall inside the pit area. So, Luke Lucchese, P7, 3.8 behind Duggan, who's 0.5 of a second behind Willem Botha. So it looks like they came in and went out.
Jaco Steyn is in, Jas Samai is in, Timothy Stanton is in, Peter Hubert has gone in, Willem Botha has already been in the pits. Does Willem Botha go to the front end of the field? He's still got a long way to go to get to the end of the pit lane.
Well, what I wanted to say was Botha and Duggan went in that way, they came out that way, and I thought that could change it around between Botha and Duggan. It didn't. Jaco Steyn
is already out, and Jas Samai is coming out as well, and only then comes Willem Botha. Jaco Steyn from Willem Botha, and then Raymond Duggan is back into the game as well. Timothy Stanton, who had them all in there behind him, and Peter Hubert working their way out of the pits. Jaco Steyn still leads out by 8 seconds.
Jaco Steyn from Willem Botha, from Raymond Duggan, from Jas Samai. Everybody has made at least one pit stop. There's Duggan sitting in that third position. There's Jas Samai 1.3 behind him. And here comes Luke Lucchese. Just under 1.9 between Lucchese and Samai. There's Rainier Hubert coming towards us. He has got Beccari behind him, but he's a back marker. Here comes Timothy Stanton on the lead lap. And then behind Stanton is Peter Hubert. 0.7 of a second between Stanton and Hubert.
Yep, and then behind that is the recovering Willem Pinaar. There goes Willem. And Robbie Teens is the next man that comes through there. So Steve McCarthy finds himself just outside of the top 10. Peter Hubert in a pretty decent position, and he's got some interesting stuff that's happening right in front of him. That'll be good motivation to keep the hammer down. 0.7 of a second behind Timothy Stanton, and Timothy Stanton's got a bit of a gap between himself. Oh, sorry, Renier Hubert is the next one in front of that. So Luke Lucchese up into the top 5.
Yeah, that's Peter Hubert. You see ahead of him is Timothy Stanton. Ahead of Timothy Stanton is Sandro Bakari. And then ahead of Bakari, that could be Renier Hubert. It is indeed, it's a camel car that is in there, and he's been hassled heavily there by Sandro Bakari. But keep in mind that Bakari is way out of sync. He's there in P16.
So Luke Lucchese is starting to close down on the back end now of Yaz Samai. Let's have a look at the last lap times. How does that one play itself out? A 57.1 and a 58.1. So Luke Lucchese a second quicker than Yaz Samai. I predict he's going to get past Yaz Samai in the not too distant future. But to get to Raymond Duggan, that's going to be a bit of a difficult one. We're into lap number 16. There's only 8 more laps to go.
Yeah, Lucchese right on the case there of Yaz Samai, 0.2 of a second. That's the Repsol car of Manuk of Topo Pilotis. That's battling out there in that car, but enjoying it nonetheless. There is somebody diving. I thought he was going to dive to the pits, but he was trying not to make contact with anybody, and that is Leonardo Bakari.
Yep, but then Johan Ferry, in fact, then passed Leonardo Bakari as Leonardo Bakari was trying to get himself back onto the circuit.
So here we go. Once again, Lucchese crowding the back end there of Samai, and just ahead of them is Raymond Duggan. So Duggan has got Samai and Lucchese racked and stacked in there, and you wouldn't put it past Lucchese to move up from P5 to P3 for that matter, because he's all over the back end there of Lucchese, all over the back end there of Samai. So we go a bit further back down to that fight between Renier Hubert, Timothy Stanton, Peter Hubert, and then, well, Sandro, but he's sadly down 6 is a back marker.
Up, Luke Lucchese having a look once again on Yaz Samai, going up on that inside line with the Lego car. Yaz Samai gets a little bit of a drift onto it, and that was the end of that. Now, Luke Lucchese is honing in on Raymond Duggan. Lap number 18, 6 to go.
Yeah, that's that fight for the top 5 positions. There is Peter Hubert. He's there in P8 and gets the move done there on Timothy Stanton, dropping Stanton down to P8 now, but they're chopping and changing positions, and sadly for the car behind them, Sandro Bakari, he's in P15 and not really wanting to find himself in race 2.
Luke Lucchese all over the back of Raymond. Wow, we got to him so quickly, and now he's going to look up on the inside. I think he's going to make it stick. Yeah,
that is coming through under the Haggerty Bridge. That's heading towards a final corner, and Lucchese moves up into that 3rd position.
So let's have a look at the lap times. Can Lucchese get to Willem Botha with 5 to go? Willem Botha 57.3. Luke Lucchese having made the passing maneuver a 58.0. So 7/10 slower on that lap, but he did have to make a plan to get past the super quick Raymond Duggan and Yaz Samai in 1 lap. 19 laps down, 5 to go. Luke Lucchese 6 seconds off Willem Botha. I think Willem's just got to keep it nice and neat.
Yeah, that's all that he has to do, but Lucchese will give it all and try and cut that 6-second deficit and make it less between himself and Botha. There is Duggan in that 4th position, going over the uphill is Duggan, and behind him, just under a second in P5, is the Ray-Ban car of Asymmetric Racing, that is Yaz Samai. There is Peter Hubert. Now Peter Hubert and Renier Hubert and Timothy Stanton, they're still having that fight with each other. So the 2 Huberts in P6 and 7, 4/10 of a second between Renier and Peter, and then 8/10 of a second between Peter Hubert and Timothy Stanton into turn 1.
Robbie Teens finds himself pretty close on the back end of Willem Pina as well, trying to make a move as they come under the Samposi Bridge into Big Bend, which is turn number 1. Nothing much between the two of them. Has Luke Leclerc closed on a Willem Botha? Very, very little. He's 0.4 of a second quicker. It's not enough. He needs a second lap, and unfortunately,
Willem
Pina off the circuit.
Yeah, spun right in front of Sandra Bakari. And Sandra Bakari not very happy with, sorry, Robbie Teens, I apologize, not Sandra Bakari, Robbie Teens, there's Sandra Bakari in the NGK car that is all the way in P14. So yes, he lost it right in front of Robbie Teens.
Timothy Stanton on the back of Pidio Bear in the Pennzoil car, and it looks like he's going to be able to make that turn one move stick. Luke Lucchese is only 0.3 of a second quicker than Willem Botha, and I don't think he's going to be able to make much more than that per lap. 3 laps to go. Willem's just got to keep it nice and smooth and cool, and it's all going to work for him. The question I pose, can Luke Lucchese stay out? Did he do his mathematics correct? Does he need to go back in for pits? If he does, he's way off. He's going to be out of the top 10.
I don't think he needs to. I think he'll be okay for that third position. It was 5.4, it's gone now up to 5.9, nearly 6 seconds behind Willem Botha. And I think Luke has decided, listen here, let's just stay here in this third position. However, Rainier Hubert is 0.6 of a second behind Peter, and closing up on him is a Timothy Stanton, who had a PB there of a 57.167 for Timothy Stanton. That's the 3 cars you see on screen, with Bakari, the back marker, behind the 3 of them.
Yep, that's Pity Hubert, Rainier Hubert, and Timothy Stanton. Stephen McCarthy's got himself up into the top 10. Herman Lazarus busy with a fight back onto the tail end there of Willem Pina. And Luke Lucchese does not have an answer for Willem Botha. 2 more laps to go. Jaco Steyn, as I said, once Jaco Steyn, he got robbed in race number 1. He had a good and a bad race last week, and he showed that he's been practicing with the new equipment. He's just getting quicker and quicker. He is now becoming one of the big hitters, having lost out now in race number 1. Once he got to the front, I predicted, and I stuck my neck out on that, but he has actually kept it all together. He's not temperamental. Once he gets to the front, you really battle to make a plan to get past that man, or to stay on the pace that he's on. And Jaco Steyn pretty much coming towards a lap and a half from the end of this race.
Peter Hubert from Rainier Hubert from Timothy Stanton. They are in P6, 7 and 8. That's the 3 of them you see there going around. There we ride with him. Here is Herman Lazarus, and he's chasing down Willem Pina into turn number 1. He's got the inside line on Pina. They rubbed slightly, unsettled Lazarus, and does not make the move stick there on Pina.
Jaco Steyn onto the last lap. He goes there. You see the white flag has come out for Jaco Steyn. So that'll be a hell of a relief for Jaco. He's just got to go around the island one more time. Willem Botha has closed down to 4.7. It was 5.3. So I think Jaco's starting to play just a little bit safe. Luke Lucchese has not been able to close up at all. He's up to 5.9. So I think if you look at the last lap times, you'll probably find that Willem Botha was quicker than Jaco Steyn, and also quicker than Luke Lucchese. Not too far behind. Luke Lucchese in the top 3 once again. Raymond Duggan in the top 5, and Yas Samai right in there with him as well.
Yeah, here they come down towards us. There is Yas Samai, and he is not far behind Duggan. That's a fight for P4 and 5, 5/10 of a second between them. But victory will go to Jaco Steyn. He'll finish 3.7 behind Willem Botha.
Next one through will be Luke Lucchese, and Raymond Duggan will be pretty chuffed with that one. He's got himself where he wants to be, into the top 5, and he manages to hold on ahead there of Yas Samai, the Pennzoil in 6th, and then look at that. Rainier Hubert, Timothy Stanton, Robbie Teens, they all, Robbie Teens a little bit further back, but Timothy, Rainier and Peter right on top of one another.
Yeah, Robbie Teens finishes. Here comes Willem Pina, and right behind him is Lazarus that tries to ice skate across the line, but Pina will get home ahead of Lazarus for P10 and 11.
That comes to that saying where they say, bring it sideways across the line. Herman Lazarus doing it in style.
Stephen McCarthy will finish in P12, and the last man on the lead lap will be Johan Fourie. He will finish 3.7 behind McCarthy in that 13th position.
Hectic stuff. Wow. Well, Frankie, everything that we hoped for, wished for, and more, it all happened out there today. And, well, what can I say? It just doesn't get any better than that. It's utterly brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, that was excellent stuff. It's always going to be good fun with the MAZDA MX-5s. They're not the quickest cars out there, but because they are not the quickest, it makes for very close and very exciting racing.
So Jaco Steyn eventually gets the win that was denied to him last week and in the beginning of this week as well. And well done to Jaco Steyn. From Willem Botha, Luc Lekizi going in on lap number 1 and then making it all the way to the end. That just shows do your homework and make sure that you get the mathematics correct.
Just off the podium is Raymond Duggan. He had a good one in the second outing, followed there by Yas Samai, Pieter and Renier Hubert, Timothy Stanton, Robbie Tings, Willem Pina, Herman Lazarus, Stephen McCarthy, and the last man on the lead lap, Johan Fourie.
Yeah, Johan Fourie, yeah, you won't be happy with that one. But you get the good ones, you get the bad ones. The boy's doing a bit of donuts out there and having a lot of
Willem
fun.
Botha.
Yep, he loves doing that. Let's have a look at heat number 1. Luc Lekizi from Johan. So Johan had one good, one bad. Sandro, good all round. Yaz, top 5. Willem going brilliantly.
Son had a good one. He got P3 in the second race. He was a lap down. So never had a good second one.
So Johan Fourie and Sandro Bakari having one good, one bad. Yaz Samai there and thereabouts. Let's just have a look. Where did Yaz end up in the feature? It was 4th and 5th for Yaz Samai. So that must make him probably driver of the day.
I could go with that one, yes. Why not?
Jaco Steyn, brilliant. Willem, very, very concise. Luke, very calculated. Raymond Duggan, quicker and quicker in the RAD racing car, and the success story of 2022. Mr. Porsche, Yas Samai, pity we don't see him in the Porsche Cup this year, and we haven't seen him in the GT3 series. He actually qualified for the GT3 series, said he won't be able to do it. We expected to see him in the Porsche Cup, but we didn't see him there either. Pity Hubert, always in the top 10, becoming one of the success stories of iRacing in South Africa. From Renier, nice to see Timothy once again in the top 10s. The ever-smiling Robbie Teens from Willem Pina.
Yeah, Robbie had a bit of bad luck in general in the second heat. He would have fancied being a little bit higher than P9. But yeah, all round good stuff from Lime Rock Park and in the MAZDA MX-5s. And next week, Wednesday, we continue the mayhem with the MSA Series GT3s.
Yep. GT3s, and then the week after that will be the Porsche Cup, and then the week after that, the Monday, will be the second round of the Renault Clio Cup, and then the next round of the Master Series as well. From myself, Gary Fleming, and Frankie Innes from the Second Gear Production Studio from a rather chilly Cape Town. Thanks very much for joining us, and tell your friends and tell your family and tell your people at work about iRacing in South Africa, and get them to follow us as well. From our side, good night to you, one and all.